A big update has just dropped for the PvP gearing system in the next expansion, The War Within. The PvP gearing system is fundamental to the success of PvP. We have seen many expansions where when the gearing system, isn't just right, that it definitely causes a drop off in terms of participation. It is very important, so I am very curious to see what it is exactly that is going on with it, because they are making massive changes. So the first thing is going to be that honor is transferable between characters as an 80% conversion rate. You can already kind of do this buying boxes and mailing them. So my hope with the warbands is that this is just going to be more streamlined and seamless and less tedious in terms of how many times you have to click on the screen and to send honor. I'm hoping it's going to be a bit more streamlined as an improvement there, but this is where the big update comes in. We would like to provide some insight as to how crafting and sockets integrate into PvP. To replace the removal of sockets from the Great Vault, a new item called the Vicious Jeweler's Settings will be purchasable from a vendor at a cost of honor and bloodstones. Now, I am not certain what bloodstones are, if this is like a world PvP currency, the same way that we have like a world PvP currency right now. But if you can get them for honor, that means you can pretty much farm a full set of sockets for your gear immediately. Like in a week, you could have like a full set of sockets onto gear right off the bat, unless these bloodstones are time gated or something. We'll have to wait and see what that is, because this is a very important component that I'm not 100% certain of. Hopefully they'll show us what that means later in the post. This item will allow you to put a socket on any piece of PvP equipment that is eligible to have a socket, and rings and necklaces can have up to 2 sockets like the PvE counterpart. Note that the jewel crafting version of the Socketeer is not compatible with PvP equipment. The jewel crafting version, so you can't put PvE, you can't use PvE currencies to put sockets on PvP gear. I think this is, again, the reason they're removing it from the vault is so that if you do Mythic Plus, you don't feel like you have to lose out on a Mythic Plus piece to get a PvP piece. So this way, if you're playing both content, you can just gear up for them simultaneously. I think is likely what they're trying to do. So this is why they've put this here. We would like for the journey to full gems on PvP gear be meaningful, but effort gated rather than time gated. That's a very important sentence right there. That's a very important sentence, because for me personally, as a PvP player, there is nothing I hate more than having my time wasted. For example, I'm really enjoying Cataclysm PvP, but a lot of it requires you to do raids. And when you do the raid, your gear drop is not guaranteed. So you can organize the group, go through the process of learning it, get through the raid, and never see your item and completely waste your time and get really frustrated over the other people that have it because you're losing to them now and you can't get it, aside from anything other than RNG and this time-gated fashion. So I really despise that method of gearing. So if we can move to a more deterministic, effort-based system, I would be very happy with that. Let me know if that makes you happy in the comments down below, but this sentence makes me think that that's the direction that we're going for PvP, and I think that's the best direction for it. And intend for the cost to be roughly comparable to the effort required, where this still sourced from the Great Vault. And intend for the cost to be roughly comparable to the effort required where this still sourced from the Great Vault. So if you were going to get I can't remember how much honor it is per week to get 3 vault slots or something. It's like 15,000 or something. So it's probably going to be like 15,000 honor a socket, which is a lot. I mean, that's going to be a lot. I'm a bit worried about the degeneracy of the farming at the start here, because in Dragonflight, they lowered the honor cost on the honor gear. So it felt like you spent like maybe 2-3 hours and you were like full honor geared. Not even 2-3 hours, you're full honor geared. Now it's going to be, do I need to put sockets on my honor gear? Because if it's 15k honor a socket, and how many sockets did they just say? It's like 2 per 3 pieces and then 5 or something like that. There's like 9 sockets-ish. 15,000 times 9. That's a lot of honor. That's a lot of honor. And if you feel pressured to farm that to put it on honor gear and not even just conquest, it'd probably be less difficult if they just don't allow you to put it on honored gear. I think they should just not let you socket honored gear, to be honest, because that grind is going to be absolutely atrocious. Whereas if it's only socketing conquest gear, you can only get so many pieces per week. So you can only need to farm so many sockets per week, and that will likely line up with whatever PvP content you're doing anyways, the same way that the vault was. I think they need to be careful with this, because I personally don't want to degenerately have to farm random battlegrounds to get sockets for my honor gear on all my characters. That sounds very miserable. So I don't think they should allow you to put sockets on honored gear just for that reason. But let me know what you think in the comments down below about that thought. Additionally, this item can occasionally drop from end match victory boxes with a much higher chance to drop from certain war mode activities. And they're putting more of a focus and emphasis on world PvP. I think they're adding seasonal meta achievements. They added a B mount for world PvP. They're actually giving it a lot more attention. So you'll be able to get it just from playing the game as well, even if you're just doing ranked content, but also war mode activities. And world PvP at the start of an expansion is by far the best time to do it. I'm going to be doing a lot of it. If you see my channel during Dragonflight, a lot of my content was actually focused around it. It's super fun. World is super active. I can't wait to see what they've done as far as PvP quests or just how the zones lay out. Now with dynamic flight being enabled right away, hopefully there's going to be more tools to dismount players. I think that that's actually becoming increasingly more of a frustrating thing, is trying to dismount people, whether they're flying on a regular mount or they're flying on a dragon riding dynamic flying mount, or whatever it's called now. More ways to dismount players I think would be important for war mode, but you're going to be able to get them through RNG as well as effort. Again, I don't know. As long as it's supplementary and I don't feel like I'm finding somebody that just randomly got full sockets through RNG in the first day and I'm still like trying to farm them, I think that that's going to be fine. Crafted PvP gear is receiving a few updates. So crafted PvP gear is another important component because we've been time gated, right? You can only get so many sparks per week. How is that going to work? Because you could also buy sparks from the vault. Is receiving a few updates as well. In Dragonflight Season 2, we added optional reagents that allowed you to enhance any piece of crafted spark equipment with honor or conquest item level. This allowed for much greater stat customization and enabled most crafted embellishments to exist as options within the PvP ecosystem. Unfortunately, this came with the downside of being gated by the acquisition of your bi-weekly sparks, which ultimately slowed down the ability to acquire and use this gear and proved to be an obstacle in gearing simultaneously for PvP and PvE. Finally, the seasonal nature of our starter PvP gear resulted in a flood of largely duplicate recipes. Okay, so they don't like the time gating of the bi-weekly upgrades. And for a lot of classes, you know, the PvP gear specifically doesn't really have the greatest itemization. So you end up getting, like, for Assassination Rogues, I think you wanted like crit or master or something like that. And a lot of gear is just haste. Or for priests, a lot of gear is haste and you want mastery. So you have to craft a significant more portion of your pieces or just wear stats that are not ideal. So making this less time gated would be really good. So what are they doing specifically? In the War Within, we're working to smooth out these rough edges with the following changes. Crafted PvP recipes will now be primarily sourced through a vendor at a heavy honor cost. So again, we have another like honor sink. Now in Dragonflight, you end up just accumulating a ton of honor that doesn't really go anywhere unless you just buy like boxes for resources and vend them for gold and stuff like that. So it seems like they're trying to put a lot more things and reasons to spend honor on in this expansion. I think as long as you can't socket honor PvP gear, and it's only for conquest PvP gear, it's probably going to be fine. But also, I don't think you need to be a crafter necessarily in order to make these. So you don't need to buy these. You would only buy these if you want to make a ton of gold. This is likely going to be a huge gold farming method at the start of the season, especially if you're putting your honor into these recipes first, especially the highest in demand ones, because crafters want to get their hands on them to craft things to make gold themselves. So there's maybe a bit of a problem there where some players will feel like pressured to buy the rest, as opposed to the recipes being random like they are right now, where you don't have to spend any resources on them. By forcing you to have to buy them and no RNG means that you're taking a sacrifice of potentially getting your gear. Another reason to not let you put sockets on honor gear, because if it's fast to get honor gear, you can just immediately start farming these instead. These recipes will continue to drop, so they are still RNG, so you can probably maybe even avoid this unless you really wanted to try and maybe cheese some sort of gold farming method through this. It's not going to be too big of a deal. Regardless of how you acquire them, the recipes are not bind on pickup and can be sold or traded to other players. So yeah, this is going to be a gold farming method, at least for like the first week or two in the season. These recipes are evergreen for the expansion. Oh, it's going to be only for the first week of the expansion, not even a season. And you will not need to collect a full suite of recipes season over season. What was previously optional reagents are now required reagents that function similarly to the spark. You can purchase these with honor and conquest just as before. I think they're talking about like the trophies that were like 525 and 8 something conquest at the moment in Dragonflight. And each recipe will require a quantity equivalent in cost to what the vendor offers for that slot. Essentially, if you have the currency, you can choose to craft a PvP gear. So I'm hoping what this means is that you can either buy a conquest piece for straight up conquest, or you can buy these, reagents or whatever they are, mats, to craft the piece instead. So week by week, as you're unlocking your conquest, you can do a crafted piece or you can do the conquest piece, and you can pick depending on which one suits what you're trying to do with your character. And if that's how it ends up working, or at least it sounds like they're trying to get it to work, then I think that's really good. The starter set of crafted PvP gear will remain BOE. So this is like the green quality. It's like 10 item levels, 3 item levels lower than the honor gear or something. You could just buy it right away on the auction house if you really wanted to. I don't know how much this gear really had as far as an impact in the game. It's just like maybe a nice little catch up for an alt or something, so you weren't totally getting wrecked in random battlegrounds while you're farming honor gear, but it didn't really matter that much. It's going to remain BOE, and the reagent used to craft it will drop in high quantities from victory boxes and tradable. So this set is just staying exactly the same, it sounds like. You will be able to purchase the reagent with honor as well, though at a slightly higher cost to honor gear due to its tradability. When we enter a new season, this set of reagents will no longer be obtainable, and a new set with updated item levels will take their place. As usual, you can recraft these higher item levels once you acquire the reagents necessary. Okay, so it does sound like it's going to be carrying season over season. So, I mean, this sounds like a good improvement overall. I think as long as they make it so you can't socket honor gear, because it seems like it's going to be quite a big honor sink to put sockets onto your gear. It should be only conquest gear can get sockets, so people don't feel pressured to farm like 150,000 conquests in the first week just to socket their honor gear. It would just be one concern at the moment. I don't think there is honor gear on the beta to test that theory out. The fact that you don't have to choose between whether you want to gear up for PvP or PvE, you can do them both at the same time if you're doing both content, I think is really good. That's a nice improvement. And the fact that you can craft gear and make that choice just actively as you're unlocking conquest instead of having to wait and maybe you're one half of a spark behind is really good. So I would say overall that this is a very nice improvement to the system from Dragonflight, which is exactly what you want. Take the things that were working from the existing system and slightly tweak and improve them. That's going to create the best experience overall. So I very much so like this post. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to thumbs up and press the subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything related to World of Warcraft. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.